Over to you, sir. Shewambe. Arawagbunka, are you there?
Yes, Moambi, can you hear
Loud
me
and
very
clear,
well?
sir. So over to
Yes,
30
sir.
minutes starts now. Eshego.
Okay, thank you. Let me get the time, 1:15. So I guess I have till 1:45, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Babami. Good job, my brothers. Residency rights over versus indigenous rights. Let's first define what both is. Residency right means that you can cross from your own ancestral space to the ancestral space of others and now kind of have the same similar rights with the person over there. So as the son of the soil, so to speak. So for instance, you and I were Yoruba people, and we are people whose ancestors have defended that land with their blood and their sweat. We've known all of our ancestors that perished and died trying to protect Yoruba land. We've known about the wars that was fought, all the cities that were taken off, and all the warriors that went to Ibadan and Ijayi. It was based on this that great people like um Toyeje of Ogomosho died in this process, defending this land. Arekurumi of Ijayi died protecting this lands. Um, Ojo Amekpo, Kakanfo Amekpo, and a lot of Kakanfo Edun, all these people died in defense of this land. And now we, their sons, now because the British came and they put us together, now the what they're saying now is that because we're now one Nigeria, that person on the other side, that his own ancestors did not play any role in preserving the same land for me and you, so that we can also preserve it for our children, right? Now have the same right as you and I. uh, you'll know that one of the people that rejected in residency rights in the First Republic were actually the Northerners. They so much hated that idea, especially the Sadauna Amadu Bello, and he spoke out against it a lot. But then all of a sudden, if you notice it, one of the champions of that law today is before this our disappointment of an elder who is the vice president took over that nonsense he was saying. One of the greatest champions of this was Atiku. So you would ask yourself, like, why would Atiku all of a sudden embrace this kind of law when it was obvious that his ancestors, his predecessors, were so much against it? And you can know that the north is a region that is very territorial in the way they think, the way they believe a society should be run is totally different from ours. So why should they be the one championing these things? That's where you know the deception of politics, and you'll know that the real target is Yoruba land and Yoruba people. And the liberalism among us is one of the dangerous things they are targeting, and the youthful elements, likes of Rinu, likes of Hundeyi, those are the people, and likes of pedigree, 300 years of pedigree, we realize sure. Those are the kind of people they are hoping would be open towards them when they are ready to do their agenda. Now, let's go to a quick history because I wouldn't dive deep until when I come back to speak a second time after my brother Are has spoken. But we need to do a little foundation of Nigeria to the point where we're now kind of getting to a point where this kind of topic is sane because even though I share the same passport with an Igbo man, a Fulani man, a TV man. I have more ethnic, more DNA rights with people in Benin, with people in Togo, with people in Ghana, with people in Brazil. So, what kind of law makes it possible for an Igbo man to be more welcomed in my own space than my brothers in Brazil, whose ancestors were with me, with my own ancestors, and the only difference was that they were unfortunate to have been captured and sold into slavery. So should they suffer for their fathers being taken away from their land and sold into slavery in another place? They don't now have a right to share the same nationality with me because Lord Lugard created something. This is the hypocrisy that we Yorubas have indulged in for a long time. And I think it has gotten to a point where a lot of serious deep talks have to be, especially within these next 4 years. Now, British saw us all as blacks. They saw us all as one race. They never respected ethnic identity. So when they divided Africa at Berlin, they did not care about keeping people of ethnic stocks together. It was all about mineral resources, which places had the best minerals, and how can we use that for our advantage, right? So the Yorubas were taken cut out of that boundary, and some were the division in Berlin placed a lot of Yoruba people in Benin, placed them in Togo, placed them in Ghana. The division placed a lot of Hausa people in Niger. It placed them in Cameroon. It took a lot of Kanuri people and placed them in Chad. Took some Bariba people as well and placed them in Benin, and the Efik people put them in southern Cameroon. So Nigeria was brought together for administrative convenience. The original plan of Nigeria was to bring together the southern kingdoms through a treaty and then merge it with the middle belt. There wasn't that plan to bring in the north. So you see, the whole Middle Belt region, there were two kingdoms. The Middle Belt is the biggest expanse of land in current Nigeria. The largest landmass is Middle Belt, but it was the most disorganized region. It didn't have very structured governments, and this was a place where constant raiding for slaves were going on. Middle Belt has always been a vulnerable place since time immemorial. Even in Nigeria, as we speak today, it's still the most vulnerable place, and that's one of the reasons why the sage Obafemi Awolowo really championed their cause. He wanted to do everything to kind of give them a solid base within Nigeria. But unfortunately, things didn't work out the way he hoped. But there were only two very structured kingdoms in the middle belt of that time, and this was the Bida Emirate under a king called Umaru, and the Ilorin Emirate, which was under Sulemanu. Sulemanu was a direct descendant of Alimi. So these were the very structured system of government. Almost every other, though of course there was the Baribas, there was the Igalas, there was the TVs, people also in the Middle Belt area, but they weren't really very structured, a very high, organized command system like these two kingdoms. And this was where the British kind of fell in love with the Fulani people, especially when they observed what was happening at Bida, because it wasn't happening like that at Ilorin. Ilorin, you see, of all the kingdoms that the Fulani took, it was only Ilorin that they could not turn into a feudal structure. The emir did not own the lands, and he could not force people into slave plantations. And he could not create a strong racial hierarchy structure in Ilorin the way you would see happening in Kano, in Gobria, in all these places. So the Balogons were very powerful, and of course that was reversed after the British came. Now, nationalism started in the 1930s. Grassroots nationalism in Nigeria. That was the first grassroots, and the party was the Nigerian Youth Movement. Before then, there were political activities in Lagos, but it was kind of elitist in nature, mostly dominated by a people that we know as the Saros. And when I say Saros, please, I'm talking of the elitist Saros, not the general Saros. There are some very great Saros. There was Bode Thomas. Yes, yes. I used to mix it with Bode George. Yes, Bode Thomas. There was Awoshika. Those were all sorrows, and they did. So when we talk of sorrows, we're talking of the elitist sorrows. Those that came with from Sierra Leone had that CMS mindset. The Anglican guys, those that helped the British to conquer Nigeria, those were the elitist sorrows that I'm talking about. They do not represent the interest of native Yoruba people, and as such, they never really respected ethnic preservation. So the likes of Macaulay, for example, they call him the father of Nigerian nationalism, but that's far from the truth. He was more of a friend of the British government, and Macaulay's fight was the same as Gandhi's fight in South Africa. So Gandhi was fighting for an equal status of Indians. He didn't want white people to look look at Indians as inferior to whites. But he said it was okay for Indians and white people to be on the same round table to oppress the native black people, who he agreed were also savages and always going around naked. All they want to do is have cows, get married. They're not very innovative. Those were the words of Gandhi. That's the same mindset the elitist Saros had. They wanted to be on the same board with the British to oppress the natives. And now the and Macaulay and his parties was also of that interest. That's why they were limited mostly to Lagos. But now the Nigerian youth movement was the first grassroots movement that fought for inclusion of natives in the governing policies that created opportunities for natives in Nigeria. Like they were the ones who fought for local institutions like Yabatek. The Yabatek was created because of activism of Nigerian youth movement. They fought for inclusion of natives in the government. That was what led to the inclusion of the Chief Justice, the reorganization of the judiciary system, and then Justice Adik Tokunbo Ademola became the first magistrate court judge. That was part of the fight and the struggles of the Nigerian youth movement. They fought to protect the local farmers from exploitation of the British farmers who were doing something like a pool. So they would buy from cocoa and all these things very cheap from the farmers and then make a lot of profit from the margin. Nigerian youth movement started. So you'll see that they were the first grassroots that were embracing the natives. And but Awolowo noticed something because most of those great guys that were in the nationalist movement in the 50s, they Nigerian youth movement was their training ground. So the likes of Awolowo, the likes of Zeke, the likes of Eyoita, most of these great names in the nationalist struggles in southern Nigeria started from Nigerian youth movement. But Awolowo noticed something that people in this movement made their decisions based on tribal affiliations. And the only people that were not doing that were the Yoruba people. There were tribal unions. There was the Ibibio Union, and there was the Igbo unions, which Zeke took all those unions and put them together to form what you call the Igbo Federal Union in 1943. And then there was the strong Benin Delta lobbying group. The only group that did not exist was the Yoruba people. And Zeke was using that to his advantage in that party. He was using because he was a man who really hated Yoruba people. And anytime you see Yoruba people rising politically or in any way, they show a lot of hate towards it. It's been like since the 40s, and this is a bad blood that even his descendants have inherited it. Look at almost anything that happens in Nigerian politics. I dare tell you that anytime you see a self-conscious Yoruba man, an emphasis on the word self-conscious. When I say self-conscious, please exclude the name of Basanjo from that list. Anytime you see a self-conscious Yoruba man imagine politically, the greatest adversary to him is the sons of Zeke. And when I say sons of Zeke, you know what are the people I'm talking about, because we have to be careful about people that want to report and bring down our pages, right? Look at everything that was done to destroy Awolowo's legacy. Look at everything that was done to destroy MKO Abiola's legacy, June 12th, the people behind the destruction of the party. And look at the so much hate that's coming around now because a Yoruba man won a presidential election. Look at all the lies about that we want to take back a mandate. That's how propaganda works. They never had a mandate. That the man came third. He never won. But they will put it in your brain to make it look like he won the election. And then they will start smear campaigns on this. He just came back from a trip abroad. And there's a picture where he raised his hand to wave at people. And there was a black band on his hand. These guys took the picture and they turned it to an injection, make it look like he was on a syringe. That's a propaganda that has been going on. So you can see that there's always this hate when you see a self-conscious Yoruba man rising. There's a reason behind it, and it's going to be addressed. Probably if I can't get to it now because of my 30 minutes, I'll get to it when it's time for me to talk. It has a lot to do with this residency and indigenous rights situation thing. And now this thing greatly worried Awo, and he called it the concept of local Caesars. It's a kind of messiah game. So when we talk about local Caesars, we're talking about someone pretending that he's a god. And so when you come out as a god, if you look at the politics that come from the East, when they want to present someone as a federal candidate, as a candidate for presidency, they always paint him like a god. They always paint him like a messiah, someone that is coming to save you, someone you must look up to and you must never question. So Caesar is a god, and so when they say the messiah game, those who want to manipulate you for their agenda, they need to take you away from your reality and then give you a false one. That is what the Messiah game is about. A Messiah is someone who knows it all. He has a divine mandate, and you are not to question him. And Awolowo said something interesting about this concept of, I think it's in page 272 of his biography. I'm not going to do much reading today because we have short time, so I don't want to use my time to do a lot of readings. But he said something. He said, there is in Nigeria, there is an imperialism, and he's talking of Nigeria in the 40s. He said there's an imperialism of ignorance, there's an imperialism of disease, there's an imperialism of want, which I've mentioned. British imperialism and imperialism of local Caesars who flourished under the ages of British imperialism. It is idle and naive and dangerous to imagine that when you remove the British and you usher in a new people of local Caesars, that you have completed your mission. This is what I was trying to warn, which we felt in on our time too, that when someone comes to you and paint themselves as a messiah, be always careful at those people. They're playing the concept of local Caesars, especially if it's a people who have benefited from a previous system and now coming to you and saying, "Oh, I'm now your Messiah." Um, you dare not doubt a Messiah, and above all, you must forget about your ethnic identity to follow this Messiah. This is why they paint these illusions of Peter Obi, like the sage I was said. This was a man who was with Abacha, ruled with him for a long time in the PDP years. Now he's being repackaged, and his followers says, one of the interesting things that they usually say is that, oh, why are you supporting your own kingsman? That's for those who have the ethnic affiliations to their own person. They will say, oh, will this change the price of Gary? Does this change the price of fuel? If you go to the market and you want to go and buy rice, you want to buy beans, they won't sell it differently for a Yoruba man than they would for an Igbo man. So don't be stupid. Don't vote for someone because of that. Vote for someone who will make the price of rice and price of gari cheaper. So you can see how devious and how very clever this um this propaganda works. One that tries to tell you that please try to change, there's only the person that can turn a consumption to production, than the Messiah has come. So this was same game of deception that I was observing of our fathers when they were talking about how they were branding Zeke also as a Messiah. The reality is that the Yoruba man's first priority is not the price of bread, it's not the price of Gary. The number one priority of a Yoruba man, or let me say, what should be the number one priority of a Yoruba man, right, is the preservation of his land. To own your land is much higher than to buy things cheaper, to buy Gary or to buy bread cheaper in the market. Whatever the glory of America is, whatever the glory of Canada is, whatever the glory of Australia is today, or whatever the glory of Mexico is, the people that will not partake of it are the Aztecs, are the Mayans, and the Cherokees and all these other Native Americans, even if the price of gari or bread in these countries become 1 cent, right? They are still second class citizens. And so whatever the glory and whatever the grandiose may be, it's still to their embarrassment and to their shame. This is what a Yoruba man should think, and this is how he should think. When people come to him and say, oh, it's about the price of bread, it's about the price of Gary. No, it is about self-preservation of your land first and foremost. Now, I think yes, I have 10 more minutes to wrap up. And I know that we have to make these foundations before we go into the topic. And I have my reasons for doing it. And you understand the pieces when we get there. Residency rights is a brainchild of the sons of Zeke. And they, they they started to imagine politics in the 30s and 40s, and they were the loudest voice against regionalism since the 40s. And the interesting part is that they're the most territorial people. They want to come to your own space, and they want to fight for some rights that you will never get in their own space, right? The right to be governor, the right to buy land in your space, the land to hold office spaces, and the right to dominate business and commerce in your space. But you would never get that opportunity. So you can see that it's one-sided, and you can see that there's an element of deception and why this is happening. Now, they want an opportunity to invade your space, right? Cause discomfort, and then hijack the political process there for their own Igbo ethnic agenda. And I'm being blunt about this because it's gotten to a point where we can't continue to pretend when this propaganda is going on, right? This way of thinking started after they realized that ethnic religions in Nigeria were too self-conscious and would reject any political domination from the center. They started out with a fight for unitary system, and that started out in 1949 when they had their meeting in Kano, and NCNC was saying no, 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 we want unitary system of government, and every other person rejected it. Awo rejected it, and the North rejected it. And they kept fighting for it until they were able to get what they wanted from a back door through a decree of Ironsi. And you'll see that most of the people that were with him and most of the people that put the laws together to make unitary system possible, which in a decree called Decree 33 in May of 1966, were people that were working with Zeke in NCNC to make it happen as well. So they were able to do that through a backdoor way where others are not allowed to be on the table to have their influence and their voice heard powerfully, the way it was in the 50s when we were going to England to do it. Now, Zeke's vision for Nigeria was that there should be only one master race. And this race should be his own people, the Igbo people, and they should be the ones in charge of Nigeria. This is the concept of manifest destiny. And this was said in 1949. I'm going to quickly read that out so that we can understand what the manifest destiny means. So now, this is what he said in his inauguration speech in 1949 of the Igbo Federal Union. Zeke says, and I quote, "It would appear that God of Africa has specifically created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages." I repeat, I read again. It would appear that the God of Africa has specifically created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. The martial prowess of the Igbo nation at all stages of human history has enabled them not only to conquer others, but also to adapt themselves to the role of preservers. The Igbo nation cannot shrink in its responsibility. Now, this is the concept of the manifest destiny. Three things that we need to take away from here. The concept of manifest destiny claims that God has created Igbos as a special race to lead others. And when Akitola was saying this in his campaign speech, he said, àwọn Igbo sọ pé Ọlọ́run dá wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí àkàndá ènìyàn. So if you have not listened to Akitola's full speech, If it's possible, my brother host, please help me post it if you have it, so that people can say it, so that we can relate the disturbances of these thinkings of that time. And another thing about this thing is that it says that the martial prowess of Igbo people have made them, enabled them to conquer others. So there was a leadership mission, there was a conquest mission, and there was a resilience mission, which was the third thing. It said the Igbo cannot shrink in his responsibility. So this is what residency and indigenous means. Residency is that let these people be able to go into other spaces and complete the mission that they were given, which is the mission of manifest destiny, where you should go everywhere in Africa, starting obviously from Nigeria, to be able to lead and to be able to conquer and dominate others. This is what it is all about. And if you still doubt that this is happening in our time, just take a look at what happened in this current election, Labour Party, and look at all the propaganda and agenda that was put in place to conquer Yoruba land, starting from its important center, which is the commercial center. Look at all the propaganda that happened there, and then compare that to what was happening in the 40s, and you would see that the DNA and the mindset and the mission has not changed. Now, so now, he called when the residency versus indigenous rights tension started after there was a fight and the creation of what you call the Macpherson Constitution. The Macpherson Constitution was created in 1951. Zeke was very upset about this because it further blocked his chances of domination using a political party, a political conquesting. And he said this was a balkanization agenda, and he called on Awolowo and said, "Let us reject this constitution." And Awolowo said, "No, I'm comfortable with the constitution. The constitution is the way forward to Nigeria, where each one is comfortable in their space." And the slogan of Action Group at that time is unity through federation. Now, when he noticed that that didn't work, he now said, "Okay, well, I'm still going to take Yoruba land politically." So he wanted to build NCNC as a powerful party and use that to take. And of course, Awolowo blocked that. He himself actually wanted to be the first premier. Now, I will block that. So what does he do? He went to meet, we spoke about the Saros earlier. He went back to meet them and worked with them to frustrate all attempts to make Lagos a part of Western region. That was where the concept of is it Gidigba or Gidigbi? Sorry, that Yoruba could Gidigbi Lekowa. Something like that, Cha. That was when that slogan came because the native Lagosians, the Awori people, the king at that time, Oba Adele, was fighting to bring Lagos into Western region, but they blocked it. The Saros and the Zikists, they blocked that agenda so that he could use Lagos to perpetrate his takeover of Yoruba land, using the tensions in between the different groups and trying to use that to position himself to his advantage. So this is what the concept of residency versus indigenous is about. Residency gives a people who do not have ancestral stakes in a place the right to come in there, dominate you, and make you second class citizens in your ancestral home. And let me, before I round up my own time on this space and I come back again, it happened in the First Republic. There were some tension between the Oni of Ife and Abba Kenzo of Benin. And the reason was that Oni of Ife was the royal father of the political party that dominated the Western region. And Abba Kenzo was like, I can't have this because for many years before the British came, I was also sovereign in my own space. So he didn't like the idea that he had to be under the Oni of Ife. So he created his own socio-cultural group, which was called the BDPP, and the Benin Delta People's Party. And he now started to lobby for a creation of the Midwest state so that he, the Oba of Benin, could have spiritual influence in his own space, the same way the Oni of Ife had so much spiritual influence in Yoruba land. Now, the Zeke came over and his party NCNC came over and said, yes, we are going to support you in this movement, and they brought in a lot of thugs, a lot of militant. They brought in a lot of militancy into the Midwest, and they used their political influence in the parliament in Lagos to help to work with the North to make sure that the uh, Midwest was created. But now, this is what happened. After they've been able to do it, they took that power away from the Oba of Benin and placed it under the Obi of Agbo. And then they took the party that he created, Benin Delta People's Party, and frustrated it, and then imposed Dennis Osadebe to be the first premier of that region. Dennis Osadebe was an Igbo man, and so he still had that agenda. That is what residency rights over indigenous rights do. They make it possible for outsiders to hijack your political structure, hijack your ideologies, and then dominate you in your space. I'm going to yield for now because my time is up, and then I probably will come back after my brother Are have spoken. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alagwagbunka. Wonderful submission. I think the slogan you were trying to remember was Gidigbe Likoa. But thank you very much for the nice submission.
Thank you
Yes,
very
yeah.
much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful submission. At least our people can learn, that these issues have not just been a yesterday's issue. They've not just been an issue that started last week or 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much, guys, once again for joining us. If you are just joining this space, kindly retweet, so that a lot of Yoruba people can get to see what this room is about, and they can get to join us, and they can get to also learn from this. Do not toy with your indigenous land for any reason, because once you do that, you would have to. In fact, some people have not gotten back their land. You can see the events that are happening around the world, so we can learn from that. So thank you very much, Arakuri Bunka. Arakuri Misa, are you there, sir?
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. I greet everybody in the name of Olodumare. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. And I greet all the nationalist Yoruba conservative voices on the Twitter social media spaces. From Ashiri Oro, if it's still here, the Yoruba Times, Yoruba Auckland, Arabian Shola, and everybody think Yoruba first, and every other Yoruba nationalist. All those platforms I've mentioned, please, I want my Yoruba people to kindly follow it. Once again, I greet us in the name of Olodumare. I'm the president of Think Yoruba First Worldwide. It's a socio-cultural, socio-political, and organization that is focused on the renaissance of Yoruba people, protection of Yoruba rights anywhere we are in the world, and the self-preservation of Yoruba people, Yoruba land, to ensure we survive anywhere we find ourselves. Since 1886, after the Berlin West African Conference, the Yoruba people they've been trying to determine their destiny and to fight for who they are. The Yoruba people, the biggest ethnic nationality, perhaps in West Africa, all of a sudden became minorities across West African countries where the colonialists were able to break them into. They became minorities in Togo, minorities in Ghana, minorities in Sierra Leone, and they put them into Nigeria, where till date, It is still a crime for a Yoruba man to become a president without being killed, without being enchanted. It is still a crime for Yoruba people to be Yoruba people in Yoruba land. We are the most abused. We are the most insulted. We are the most denigrated ethnic nationality within the Nigerian contraption. And that is why some of us, when we speak with passion. Unfortunately, a lot of Yoruba people don't understand the battle we face. I'm going to be using two countries, two instances to let you understand the concept of secular colonialism, residency against indigenous rights, and residency against indigenous rights. I'm going to try as much as possible to be concise, to be systematic as much as possible, and to be very, very direct. Number one, indigenous people are in people that are autochthonous to a particular space. That is the definition of indigenous people. While resident settlers are people that do not have any form of ancestral ties to that particular space, but one way or the other, by means of migration and settler colonialism, they've been able to get a foothold into that space. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong in human beings migrating from one space to the other. But there's something fundamentally wrong when people use unguided migration into a particular space to wage war against the indigenous people and start scheming on how to take it over. Nigeria, with the politics you see in Nigeria is not a normal politics. It is geopolitics. And that is why you must be very, very careful when other ethnicities are telling you, oh, let us forget about our ethnicity. You know, those are lies from the pit of hell. Those are the semantics, the propaganda they use in order to destroy one another in the fight for power and resources. And I'm going to tell you something. And I'm going to start basically with Nigeria to properly elucidate what Nigeria is all about. Nigeria is not a nation, it's a country of nations. I didn't say that. Sir Ahmadu Bello was very, very clear about what Nigeria was. It was very clear. No matter what anybody says about that man, the man was very real. Sir Ahmadu Bello was very real about Nigeria. Obafemi Awolowo was very, very real. You know, when in the 1940s, he called Nigeria a mere geographical expression. The only person that wanted to de-ethnicize, to destroy indigenous people, while trying to claim one Nigeria, but we all know the agenda was to place his people as his master race over the rest of us within Nigeria was Nnamdi Azikiwe. You know, so and we all know how it ended. And I can say that every one of us, we are in this state of dilemma because of the greed, because of the lack of foresight of an individual, and the ideology brought into the eastern region and to the rest of Nigeria is still an ideology that is a threat to the existence and the survival of Yoruba people in Yoruba land. And I'm going to tell you the ideology of secular colonialism, the ideology of linguicide, the ideology of genocide, the ideology of ethnocide, where people say, oh, let's forget who we are. You know, that was what he told Ahmadu Bello. Let us forget who we are. Let us forget about our identity. But Sir Ahmadu Bello responded to him, no, let us understand our differences. And when we understand our differences, we can now chart a way forward. You know, there's a school of thought. There are two schools of thoughts in Nigeria about what Nigeria should be and how Nigeria should be and how Nigeria should proceed. There are some people who believe that for Nigeria to exist, ethnic nationalities, ethnic identities need to be exterminated. And there are some people that believe that for Nigeria to exist, for Nigeria to exist, we can still preserve our Yorubaness, we can preserve the Igbo identity, we can preserve the Fulani identity, we can preserve the Hausa identity, we can preserve the different identities. that we can still be who we are. We can be Muslims, we can be practicing Sharia and still be within Nigeria. We can be Yoruba full-blown and still be within Nigeria. Those are the school of thought of the two camps that believe that what Nigeria should be. Azikwe's school of thought was that for Nigeria to exist, ancestral lines, ancestral boundaries must be destroyed. And that's why it's the first mission. And it was so strategic. You know, if you want to destroy and take over a particular space, you go for the major ethnic group. And that's why it came for Nigeria, it came for the Yoruba people, it came for the Yoruba civilization, in order to try to hijack the political process, to hijack the political power. And don't let anybody tell you, oh, it's just political power, there's nothing more. Political power is the ultimate power in any democratic setting. Political power is more important than the power of a sultan. A political power is more important than the power of an emir, because the political power will determine the power of the traditional institutions. That is the reality of the Nigerian space. So that is why we have this school of thought. People who continue to believe in the power. That is why some people believe that you must de-ethnicize, you must de-tribalize before you can be a good Nigerian. And some of us believe we don't need to de-ethnicize, we don't need to de-tribalize. It doesn't make any sense. Because it is a German is proud to be a German and is still proud to be a Swiss. An Italian is proud to be an Italian and is still proud to be an Italian, is still proud to be a Swiss. A French is proud to be a French, is still proud to be a Swiss. Same thing in Belgium. The Dutch, peace-speaking people of Belgium, they are proud ethnic Dutch people, but they are still proud of their ethnic identity. Why must we destroy who we are organically in order to create what, for what reason, for what motive? What is the motive? What is the rationale? So this rationale is what we want to break down. And there's something I will be saying here, and it is the bitter truth. And the obsession of Azikwe and his ideologues, that's why we call it Sikhism, the obsession of, because the Yoruba youth need to understand what we are talking about. The Yoruba politicians need to understand what we are talking about, so that we are not going to follow sheepishly like a lamb led to be slaughtered about the ideology that some people are pushing for their own selfish reasons. We have to understand that. We have to really break it down, so that nobody is going to be using New Nigeria as a dog whistle for colonization. So when you hear the Labour Party slogan, oh, New Nigeria, the New Nigeria means a Nigeria where settlers take over political power from the indigenous people. So that is why the most vulnerable people that are being brainwashed are Yoruba youths. You know, Yoruba youths were not properly brought up in their homes as regards to telling them their history. But and due to the current political imbroglio we have across our Yoruba-speaking spaces, we are really struggling to ensure that our youths are not used as cannon foders, in order to make us capitulate. And the first time in the history of Yoruba land, we have a non-Yoruba speaking impostor who believes he could hijack our political process in Lagos and continually insult our obas, call them ballot snatching obas, call Oro diabolical, see all sort of terrible things. And because there are a lot of non-Yorubas resident in that area, he believes he can use them to subjugate and destroy the Yoruba people. When the issue of the Gang of Lagos came out, that issue of that movie, and the Lagos state government wrote that you are denigrating Yoruba culture. Go and look at the people that were insulting Yoruba people for saying it is wrong. It is still the same resident. Is that the kind of people that you are going to give political power? People that do not regard your language, they do not regard your culture, they do not regard your identity. They're going to tell you, do you need to speak your language before you can have good governance? They do not understand that the culture of a people, the ideology of a people is intertwined with their prosperity. They want to bring their own reality on a particular space. And when they talk, they do not even understand that they are calling for, they are calling for anarchy. This is the problem. So you must never forget this fundamental fact, that the two camps Azikwe, Awolowo and Amadou Bello belong to the other camp, to the second camp, the camp that believes. Let us keep our Yorubaness. Let us keep our Fulaniness. Let us keep our Islamicness. Let us keep who we are and have a union within a regional system of government within Nigeria. The only people that never wanted it was Azikwe and the East. That was a bit of truth. It was until before the Biafra war started, before they started talking about confederacy. This is the bitter truth. That is why some of us, at first, were a little bit shocked when a lot of people we saw as Biafran apologists, turning around 360 degree to start talking about, how they are going to take over Lagos from the Yoruba people, how Yoruba land, Lagos is no longer part of Yoruba people, how Awori people are not part of Yoruba people, and start the de-ethnicization, the de-Yorubanization of Yoruba land, sponsoring it, sitting down to talk about Yoruba history. It's near madness. What is going on within Nigeria? What is going on? That is why the illusion of Southern unity, it's never going to happen now in the future. Because the reality is, the future of the Yoruba people is in their hands, and we are going to pursue it as Yoruba people. Because we do not share the same reality, and we can never share the same reality. I don't care what anybody says. And you have to come in to explain intellectually so that we can understand what we are talking about. A few days ago, the vice president of Nigeria, who we thought was an Awoist, who we thought was a protege of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, we never knew he was just part of those westernized Yoruba people that have become elitist in nature, and they do not even understand the sensitivity and the sensibility of the people that they represent. Osibajo became the vice president of Nigeria through Yoruba sentiment. Ethnicity, economic class, race is an important part. Ideology is an important history, is an important determinant factor in any political process anywhere in the world. There is no El Dorado in the world. Anybody telling you race, ethnicity does not determine how you get to power, how you make policies, it's a lie. And within Nigeria, the different regions, the three Wasobias, have a different reality, the different ideology of what Nigeria should be. The Nigeria of the Igbos is different from the Nigeria of the Yorubas. The Nigeria of the Hausa Fulanis is different from the Yorubas. The Nigeria of the Yorubas. This is the bitter truth. This is the bitter truth. Tinubu and Buhari might be in APC, but the reality is how they are going to govern and the policies they are going to follow is going to be totally different. That was why, no matter how much people insult, you can insult the British from now to tomorrow, but the British understood the complexity of the Nigerian Union. That was why they left a regional system of government. And the people that have been advocating, people that were advocating for the unitary system of government, finally brought it in 1966. And ever since then, we've been going downhill. Instead of, I don't think anybody, this is a bitter truth. We are not bashing anybody. I don't think any right-thinking individual should still be bringing the ideology of Zik in this year 2023. Nigeria failed because the regional system of government was destroyed. Nigeria went to war because the regional system of government was destroyed, and people never respected ancestral lines. A Yoruba man that understands his history will never forgive Azikwe for what he did to the Yoruba people. For him to think he can come and bring his ethnic hegemony upon us in a very ethnically polarized and complex system, and think you can come around and become the premier, replace the British as the premier of the Yoruba people, of premier of Yoruba land. It's total insult. But people, it's because that's why we say there's an ideological difference within Nigeria. Ideological difference. That is one. This issue of certificate of residence. The certificate of residence is not different from the certificate of conquest. It's not different. When you look here, the things that are being said within Nigeria during that period, during the period of campaign for election, you are going to understand that it is near insanity for anybody to be advocating for the destruction of indigenous rights and you try to impose the hegemony of the settlers. If you are a resident somewhere, you are settling there, you are a settler. And when you are a settler, you try to absorb the political hegemony of the indigenous people. That is settler colonialism. You are a colonialist. You are a danger to the survival of the indigenous people. You are a danger to the survival of the indigenous people. You are not different from the Janjaweed. You are not different from the people. You are not different from the way the Spanish people, the conquistadors, the way they went to the Aztec Empire and destroy it. You don't need to put a gun in the period of in this 20th century and 21st century politics, where we are talking about Cold War, when we are talking about cyber warfare, different non-asymmetrical warfare. You don't need to put a gun to the head of people before you take over their space. That is the bitter truth. And we all know the current constitution of Nigeria, 1999, was a military decree. It's a military decree. This is not about political affiliations or anything. Nigeria is yet to have a proper constitution of its people, for the people, that speaks for the people. You cannot be quoting such constitution in order to further your own ethnic agenda and be creating ethnic enclaves, ethno-aggregation within other people's spaces for the sake of usurping the political power and the political process. You look at the recent, look at the election in Lagos. A lot of Yoruba people need to talk about. We need to openly talk about this. Thousands, over hundreds of thousands of people were relocated from the east to come and vote in Lagos. What is the voting population in states like Bayelsa, Osun, Ekiti, Ebonyi? What is the voting population in those places? What is the voting population in places like Bauchi, Gombe? So if you take 200,000 or 300,000 Yoruba voters, you relocate them to Gombe. That means those people by weaponizing the Nigerian system, the Nigerian democracy, where you can move from one place to the other, unhindered into other people's spaces. You can just be presenting your senators, taking your people to go and vote there, and you take over the political process. And it is your ethnic representation within Nigeria that determines who gets what and who doesn't get what, who determines how you get justice or who doesn't get justice. That is why when I see a lot of Yoruba people advocating for their own destruction within the Nigerian space, because of them not understanding what they are advocating for. People that want state of, when you say you want to destroy indigenous rights, are you going to be claiming the oil in Delta or oil in Akwa Ibom because you are residing there? So you are going to say the 13% derivation given to the oil producing places, you also that you are from Anambra, you also want to be participating there because you are residing there, or because you left Yorubaland in Delta, you want to be partaking from the oil, proceeds coming from Lagos, because Lagos is also coming, it's an oil producing state. Or because you live your life in Zamfara, you are going to tell the Hausa Fulani people there that the gold revenue coming from Zamfara, you also have the right to get it because you are living there. And something is fundamentally wrong, because you have to understand that the indigenous people, their existence in that particular space is not just because they are there for fun. If they have land, the definition of land, the definition of indigenship means different things to different people. It is the existence, the fundamental existence, the fabric that even determines the existence of some people. Let's look at the Middle Belt, for instance, because I'm still going to talk about the case of what happened in Cyprus. I'm going to talk about the case of the issue of Ukraine, Russia. I'm going to use the examples of those two places. I'm going to use the examples of Darfur so that our people can understand that you must be very, very careful of what you wish for. When people are talking about, oh, let us destroy state of residency and state of indigenship and replace the state of residency, the target is not Niger Delta, because they know those ones are harmed. The target is not the Hausa, it's not the northwest or Kanuri land. Because those ones are very, very conservative. Now I know better why the northwest had to adopt Sharia in order to protect, to insulate themselves from the shenanigans of other ethnicities within Nigeria. This is the bitter truth. This is the bitter truth. And now I understand better. Because why can't we be Yoruba people in Yoruba land and still be in Nigeria? Why can't we be Igbo people in Igbo land and still be within Nigeria? Why can't we be Tiv people in Tiv land and still be in Nigeria? Why don't we understand? India practices ethnic federalism. They built their federal state along ethno-linguistic structures. Why is it that some ethnic groups, since the inception of the Nigerian state, have always believed that the Yoruba man is not qualified to rule Yoruba people in Yoruba land? And they've never stopped scheming on how to take it over. You can continue to say, oh, Fulani herdsmen are killing people in the bush. What's the difference between you and them? It's no difference. Because the ultimate goal of chasing away, of subjugating, of outvoting the indigenous people is to hijack their political power. The political power, the Bible, the Christian Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and every other thing shall be added unto you. Seek first the kingdom of God. So that kingdom is the political kingdom. The reason why we had state creation, I want to quickly say this before I come to talk the other time. Because many people don't understand what Nigeria is. And if you see many of these low-life criminals parading themselves as intellectuals across the social media space in Nigeria, the social media space is one of the most toxic places on the surface of the earth. Because the conservatives and the real historians, people who understand what Nigeria is, we allow these shenanigans, these neoliberal fascists, to get away with a lot of nonsense. And we didn't come right out hard to really call them out for who they are. If you look at what is happening. The house state was created in Nigeria. One of the reasons why the regions were broken into states was in order to free the minorities, ethnic minorities, so that ethnic minorities can have their rights. Those were the reasons why people like Adakaboro, Ken Saro-Wiwa, Joseph Taka, those are reasons why they fought on the Nigerian side during the Civil War, because they wanted their own freedom. And the 12 states created gave them a kind of freedom. Benue, Plateau State, Bendel State. Those places gave them a form of freedom, gave them a form of sense of belonging, where the three other major ethnic nationalities will not subjugate them. And it is true. Being an ethnic minority, it is even crazy that ethnic groups that are more than 10 million in population are being called ethnic minorities in Nigeria. It's just to show you how complex Nigeria is. What is the population of the people of Finland, Estonia, Sweden, Norway, Denmark? What is the population of Sierra Leone? What is the population of Gambia? What is the population of Cameroon? What is the population of Equatorial Guinea, South Tome and Principe, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Senegal? What is even the population of Niger? But we call people that are more than 15 million in population people that are more than 20 million in population, we call them ethnic minorities within Nigeria. That is the reality we face. And you think these people do not have a right? They do not have a right to fight for who they are. They do not have a right to have political representation. If let me give you this instance.
Sorry, can I come in if it's okay? Sorry. We are trying to keep to 2 hours. So if I give you 5 minutes now, I'm gonna take it.
Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes.
Uh, uh,
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. Just remind me. Thank you for reminding me. I've been looking. I lost count of the count of the time, please. I'm sorry. So this is the reality. So states were created in order to give ethnic minorities the ability to preserve themselves. The only just speaking state in Nigeria is Bayelsa. So are you going to say because you are resident in Bayelsa, you are going to take over Bayelsa and replace the political leadership of Bayelsa with another person that even does not speak Ijaw language? And you think you are not calling for war? The people that are advocating for this nonsense, do they even understand what they are talking about? And lastly, there is a similar pattern for people that are advocating for the destruction of indigenous rights within Nigeria. When you see any space, when you see any political arrangement where people are advocating for the destruction of indigenous rights, that place is not safe for anybody. It is a space where genocide, ethnocide, linguicide, crimes against humanity is being used as a weapon of state building. So, if you look at those that are advocating for the destruction of the indigenous rights, they are always quoting Canada, they are always quoting America. Have you asked yourself why? The reason why they are quoting those two places, why can't they quote Switzerland? Why can't they quote Germany? Why can't they quote Russia? They will never do those things. They know. You know why? Because Canada, Australia, the people that are ruling in Canada, the people that are dominating politically in Canada and America are settlers who killed millions of indigenous people before they could create that reality. The question I want to ask them, are they planning to kill Yoruba people in Yoruba land before they can have their way? Maybe I was right. If you see their Twitter space, they were saying they are going to chase out Yoruba Obas. They will grab it, they will grab power. They said it. They're going to chase out our Obas. They will destroy every of our monarchy system. They will destroy our culture. Our language is a bigoted language. It should be spoken it's a primitive language that should be spoken in the bushes. Oh, don't you see Lagos? No, this is the kind of madness that we have. And after they continue saying this nonsense, they still say, oh, we are proud Nigeria. You're not a proud Nigeria, you're a fascist. You're a fascist and a terrorist in the making. Because you have no respect for indigenous people. You have no respect for indigenous rights. You are not supper. You are a secular colonialist. That's why the whole thing that has happened in Broglo that happened the last election should make any Yoruba man to think properly about your future. Lastly, I'm coming, moderator. To the Yoruba politicians, you have to understand this fundamentally. If you don't protect Yoruba people in Yoruba land, you are going to be relevant in the next 20 to 40 years. History is very, very important for you to make political decisions. If you make political decisions without looking at history, you are doomed. Anytime there's any political process within Nigeria, people that are not Yorubas have always voted against Yoruba interest. Oftentimes, 100%. In this First Republic from 1999, the same thing in 1970s, the same thing in the 1950s. So there's a pattern that the political aspirations of Yoruba people in Yoruba land is always not supported by people that are settlers, residents in our midst. We know the demography. And this has continued unabatedly. Democracy can be used to conquer. Adolf Hitler was brought in through democracy. Mussolini was brought in through democracy. So democracy can be used to commit genocide. Democracy is just a system of government. There's nothing special about it. There is nothing angelic about democracy. It is a system of government. So anybody can weaponize it to wipe you out and throw you into the concentration camp. That's why they said, we will chase you out. We will chase Yoruba out of Lagos. We will chase Yoruba out of Lagos. What are they using? Democracy. So we are dealing with this. You have to understand that we cannot even joke with the rights of indigenous people. Not at this moment. Not now, not in the nearest future. We are never going to move an inch. If they want to practice that, they can make state laws where non-people they can be replacing their political leaders with non-indigenous people. It's none of our business. But in Yoruba land, this is what we want. We are not asking for too much. Just the way the North wanted Sharia. We're not asking for too much. They wanted Sharia and they are still part of Nigeria. We want the protection of indigenous species. Because in the land is our prosperity. That is everything we've got. I will continue and use the explanation of Cyprus, Ukraine, and Ukraine, Russia, and Darfur. Maybe 2 examples in the next time I'm going to speak. I'm so sorry for taking too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Are, for the wonderful submission. Thank you very much. I think particularly I like the fact of our Yoruba politicians need to be much more conservative in their ideas and thoughts, because if our forefathers were not conservative enough, I don't think there would be anything called Yoruba land today. So thank you very much for that. Alak Bagbunka, are you there, sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm here.
thank you very much, sir, for
Yeah.
holding on. Arumi has dashed
Yes.
you an extra 5 minutes. You were meant to have 15 minutes, so now you can take 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Oh, I have 20 minutes. Okay. So I guess I will leave. I'll end at
Yes.
3:02. Okay. I'll try
Sorry,
it.
please
It's
kindly help me note once I raise my hand, that means you have like 2 minutes more. So, Shoti,
okay. Okay.
yes,
Yes. Yes. I saw you raise your hand. You're okay. It makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So because I'm like a preacher, so I'm a long talker. So it's tough to squeeze these things into 10, 20 minutes. But I understand the time factors, and we would I want to quickly read something out. And this was the sage Baba Ola was speaking, and this was something he wrote in the 1940s, and he was talking about the tensions going on in the Nigerian youth movement. And he noticed that even though the Nigerian youth movement was an indigenous grassroots organization, there was something that Zeke was doing in that party. He wanted to turn it. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes. He wanted to turn it into a political machinery for an Igbo agenda, and he felt like the only for him to dominate in Nigeria, the Yoruba political consciousness must be destroyed. And one of the bigger targets that he goes after is the youth. It's not a coincidence that when they talk about their parties, they're always trying to. In fact, you see, Peter Obi was not the real guy that they were after, that they wanted to brand. The real person they wanted to brand was Kingsley Mogalu, for some reason, because he wasn't a politician. He came from United Nations, and they felt like he had all those resumes. But for some reason, he wasn't flying. They couldn't do it. That was why they brought in Peter Obi. But if you look at the party that Kingsley Moghalu opened, it was something that had to do with targeting the youths. And if you look at what they did to brand Peter Obi, right? It was the youthful elements. They tried to roll in that NSAS movement, even though Peter Obi had nothing to do with NSAS. Peter Obi was part of the elite while the youth were fighting for NSAS. How it got rolled into LP and how it became the face of NSAS, that is how the propaganda works. But you can notice that throughout the political structure, the focus of Peter Obi and the LP movement was to destroy political consciousness of Yoruba land. Where they had their eye on destroying was Yoruba land. Where they had their eyes on taking was Lagos. Where they had their eyes, even they were talking about Ibadan, talking about Ogun. Saying when we're done, we're going to Ibadan. They were trying to front even their kingsmen to rule in Ondo State. So that's the kind of environment they want to thrive in. An environment that gives them a right to come into our spaces and to drag these kind of things with us. That's why residency is very, very important to them over indigenous, even though you will never get those opportunities in their land. Now, this Sage said, by the end of 1940, I was certain of my own mind that Dr. Azikwe was not a genuine member of the Nigerian youth movement, that he was bent on destroying the organization. At the same time, it seemed clear that his policy was to corrode the self respect of Yoruba people. I repeat, his policy was to corrode the self respect of Yoruba people as a group, to build up the Igbos as a master race, to magnify his own contributions to nationalistic struggle, to dwarf and misrepresent the achievements of his contemporaries. So I repeat again, I think that's important to build up the Igbos as a master race, to magnify his own vaunted contributions to the nationalistic struggle, to dwarf and misrepresent the achievements of his contemporaries. That is exactly what you see going on in politics today. There's a big time corrosion of the self respect of Yoruba people. There's a big agenda to brand the Igbos as a master race. Either you see it or not. That is happening, right? There's a big attempt to magnify the contributions of Peter Obi and then to dwarf the contributions of those that were chased into exile. Some of them, their wives were killed. Some of them, their businesses were destroyed in the process, to dwarf those contributions. As it was in those times, so it is till today. There's something else which I want you to understand how it is when the youth are being targeted. And this is also in the Sage Awolowo's biography, because it's the man that we follow and we read about a lot. He said, Dr. Azikiwe was already having a deleterious effect on a once dynamic Yoruba people. The Yorubas now indulge in mutual recrimination and condemnations of each other. The younger element thought that the Yorubas were inferior to the go ahead Igbo people, and that whatever might be their past glories, they have become.
Sorry, am I the only one who has lost Alab?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me very well?
Now you're back.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I think I lost 1 minute. Yeah. So, okay, where did I stop? Okay, yeah, so they're inferior to the go ahead Igbo people, and whatever might be their past glories, they have become effete and decadent. To cap it all, it was being branded about that the Yorubas were no longer capable of leadership in any sphere of life. This is where we are going if we are not careful. They might brand it and paint it to look like it's about Tinubu. It's not about Tinubu. Tinubu is just a convenient target for their agenda. Everything I just read now, look at it and look at the politics going on today. You'll see that it's going on there. They are targeting our younger elements, making them look to hate their elders, to feel like leadership is not capable among Yoruba people anymore. And for you to seek good leadership, you have to be an obedient. That is exactly what the sage was talking. So when you see, if you look at us on our Twitter pages, getting a little bit uncomfortable with what's going on, is because we see the bigger picture of what these guys are trying to do. Now, so the youth are usually a big target because they are not equipped with enough knowledge, and so that makes them vulnerable, and they are usually the largest people in a society. So now you see, when someone called them fascists, right? Fascists are people that act like a mob, and fascists are people that believe that to build a good nation, you have to remove ethnic boundaries and you have to only think in with a business mind. So fascism was started by an Italian called Benito Mussolini, and Benito Mussolini believed that to build a good society, you have to have good business interest. That was one of the biggest people that got mentored by Benito Mussolini was Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler too also had that. And he now took it to a higher level and said, yes, I think his own was Nazism. And he said that the special people to make the business world advance in Germany are a people with a special, and you only know them with the kind of hair they have on their head, the kind of eyeballs they have on their face. And he started that. That was exactly what um Awolowo spoke about it, and he said it's called the Herrenvolk concept. Herrenvolk concept is a concept of Hitler that says that the Aryan race are the most capable people of leadership, and Awolowo said that that was what Zeke was trying to introduce into Nigeria. Zeke was trying to introduce the Nazi Herrenvolk concept, claiming that the Aryan race among the black people were the Igbo people. And so this is what he said in his book, and I'm reading on page 74. He said it was clear from these statements and from the general political and journalistic maneuvers of Dr. Azikiwe over the years that his great objective was to set himself up as a dictator over Nigeria, to make the Igbo nation the master race. And according to him, the only obstacle in the path of his ambition was the Yoruba people. And this must be removed at all cost. A situation in which one ethnic group will dominate the others does not accord with my conception of a united and happy Nigeria. I am implacably opposed to dictatorship as well as doctrine of Herrenvolk. Either it is Hitler's own or Dr. Azikiwe's own. That's Awolowo's writings. So you can see that the same thing that the sage, the Nobel laureate was talking about, is the same thing that Awolowo was talking about in the 40s. So don't be fooled by when someone is saying the price of Gary, the price of the where they are taking you is way beyond that. It's a distraction to set themselves up as a master race over you. Now, the manifest destiny claims that ethnic boundaries should not be respected. But the what it claims is that Nigeria should be one, but the Igbo man should be in charge. That is why, although they were saying that it's about unitary system, it's not about unitary system. It's about a strong center that the Igbo man is in charge. The moment an Igbo man is not in charge, is not of use to them. That is why a people would create a unitary decree. And the same Ojuku, who was a part of that Supreme Military Council and who voted in support of unification of Nigeria, would go to a 3-year war. And what was the reason for the war? On Aburi we stand. What was Aburi? Confederation. Why did they change from unification to confederation within the same year? It was because now an Igbo man is not in power anymore. Power has gone to someone else, and that person is Gowon. So you can see this is what the manifest destiny is. The Igbo man should be in charge. And if you look at the way they've been fighting, it's always been two extremes in Nigeria. They want Biafra, or if they don't get Biafra, then they want Nigeria where one of them is president and where they can go. And this is what happened where overnight people that were fighting for Biafra switched into politics, which in itself is not bad. But now the whole politics of Labour Party was not even interested in Igbo land. It was interested in Lagos. It was interested in Kano. It was interested in dominating in the space of others. And all the people that were supporting it were the same people that were claiming that they wanted Biafra. So you can see, so if residency right is a law, you get to lose all rights for preservation. And the blood of your ancestors that will now have died in vain, the blood of Oluyole, the blood of Balogun Oderinlo, the blood of Alaafin Oluewu, those people would have died in vain because they fought to preserve that land for you. And because someone came and created an estate, you now hand it over. I mean, that would be the most ridiculous mindset to have. Now, let me tell you about how the jihads used to happen. I won't go deep into that because we will say the truth as it is. He I see the Fulani people of today as honorable people. If they gave their word and they stood by their word, and you can see how much they fought for what they believe was right, even though the beneficiary was not one of them. The vice president did not come from them. That is something you should call out and give its merit, regardless of whatever reservations that you should have, because we know how our sage Awolowo was deceived many times. The same people who put him and threw him into into prison, where his own son died in the process of trying to fight to preserve this man's life. Do you know that they went to meet him in prison and they begged him to join to form a party with them? The party was called UPGA. What was the reason for that party? They saw that the North was beginning to romance with Akintola, and they saw that it was going to remove them from power. So they wanted to not take the influence of the same man that they did everything to destroy his political career now, because it works to their advantage. Same thing they did during the January coup, when they came to meet a bunch of house Negroes like Adegboyega, lied to them that the coup was supposed to benefit Awolowo and used it to now kill almost everybody that was standing in the way of Igbo takeover agenda. And by some great miracle, the god of Igbos protected all of the Igbo targets. Only the Yoruba targets and the northern targets, Maimalari, Ademulegun, and his 7 months pregnant wife, Akintola, were the ones that were now killed. So you see, that's how it works. That's how it built around that time. Now, Amadu Bello wanted preservation of the North. He was never interested in what happened in Lagos. But guess what? When the people have a conquest agenda, they won't stop until they have it all. No matter what you give them, they will never be satisfied. Now, do you know that in the First Republic, they gained more benefits than even the Northerners that held power. NPC was the most powerful party, but those that dominated the most in that party was the Igbos, right? They were the ones in charge of the stock exchange. That was the first time they built the first stock exchange. They wanted to make Saudi Tola the leader of the first stock exchange. The Igbos cornered it for themselves, gave it to Ojuku's father, and through that stock exchange, they bought over 70% of the public corporations in Nigeria. All the most of the public corporations. That's when they became very super rich. One of the aspects that got them to be very super rich, with the help of the North. When Sir Everard was leaving Nigeria and the position of the chief of army staff opened, they wanted to give it to Ademulegun. Once again, through the Igbo Federal Union, they cornered this and got it for one of their own, Aguiyi Ironsi, right? Foreign affairs, they were in charge of foreign affairs. The man in charge was Jaja Wachuku. Anywhere you go in the world, all our embassies were staffed with Igbo people. They dominated the finance, they dominated the transportation, they controlled the transportation sector in that time. They controlled the insurance sector as well, because they dominated the real estate. They controlled the Senate. Nwafo Rizu was in charge of the Senate. But guess what? Even after all that they had, it still was not enough. They went into the north and they started to drag regional offices with these people. This was where they were like, that was what happened when Amadu Bello was talking about his discomfort with the way they were coming and taking there was a white I mean, we would have watched that thing on YouTube. The white journalist that came and he was like, no, and the journalist asked him a question: are you do one Nigeria? And he said, which kind of one Nigeria makes it okay only when you are benefiting from my own space? But how many of my own people are in the southeast and they are given those kind of positions? That was the response that Amadu Bello gave. And hello, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes. So you see, that was the tensions that were going on then. Even after all the things they wanted, they were going there in a more structured organization, taking all the ministries in the regional government until Amadu Bello had now had to change it that anybody that is not a northerner can only be hired on contract, so that when the real northerners start to graduate, they would have jobs waiting for them. And this is part of the problems we are fighting in Yoruba land. They started a slogan of Yoruba jobs for Yoruba people. And guess what? These people got upset. They got mad. It's the same mindset that Amadu Bello have. Why should we have a region in our land that is the fifth largest economy in Africa and a lot of Yoruba people are jobless because of Nigeria? But you, in your own space, make sure you keep your own jobs for yourselves, but now you come to our own space and still drag. We don't want a Nigeria that is a deception. We don't want a Nigeria where our ancestral rights are corroded, and in the name of Nigeria, you maintain your own identity, maintain your own reality, and you corrode our own reality. That was what was happening. Now, guess what? With all these things, these people did not blink an eye to murder the Sadaunar, and they did not blink an eye to murder Amado Bello, irrespective that almost all the greatness they achieved in the First Republic was through the help and support of these guys. That is what happens when the people act as a mob, when the people think that this thing is their right. And when the people feel like, yes, we are Nigerians and we are residents, so we merit. If you go and read the book of uh what's that popular Igbo writer in the East? He's late now. He was the one who wrote Things Fall Apart.
Achebe.
Chinua
Chinua
Achebe,
Achebe.
thank you very much. You will see how he was actually making it look like it wasn't a favor that was being done to Igbos because they were the most qualified people to rule to have those offices. It wasn't like anybody had a choice. So I guess the hand raising has been turned on. Ah, well, you didn't do us justice with this short time you gave us. So
I, I,
next time,
I'm,
please give us more
I'm
time.
sorry. Next time
Yeah.
we'll do better. Emma. You can take 1 or 2 minutes to properly round up a bunker.
So this is what residency is all about. An agenda to invade your space and then use the concept of false boundaries to drag rights for you in your space while they protect your their own space. Awolowo planned Lagos not for outsiders to own land. If you know the way he planned it, it was supposed to be an industrial hub that was funding the progress of Yoruba land. And you see that most of the wealth of Lagos was built from money that came from other regions. It came from cocoa, came from all those places. Whatever land they used to have in Lagos then, it was given to them by probably Jaconde or Awo for business interests, but they were not allowed to own properties like that. The man who opened Lagos and made that happen for them is the same Tinubu. He was one who opened Aja and that Apex this area, and that was how they got all those real estate. But look at how he's being paid back. These people, they have an unsatisfaction greed for land that belongs to you. They are never satisfied. So you will never go far by indulging them. And that's one of the mistakes that Sanwo-Olu is making. Let me yield here before but before we go. But thank you very much, my host,
Yes.
my able-bodied host.
No, no worries, Alagwa Bunker. Thank you very much. For the conversation, really makes a lot of sense. I mean, the most important thing is that the room has grown, and for those who missed anything, you're gonna be able to go back to the room and also follow the handlers here. Follow Arekurumi, follow Arakurin Bunker. I can see Alabi also on stage. Following him is also a member of Think Yoruba First. So we I'm gonna before I hand over to Arekurumi, please do not forget that follow the room. I mean, follow the. Sorry, I thought I was on Clubhouse. Follow the Ando Think Yoruba first, so you get to understand the project we're doing. And if you think you want to become a member of Think Yoruba First, only if you know that you are a Yoruba conservative who is willing, to put their hands dirty on projects and to work for the Yoruba people, feel free to join our organization. We have amazing projects, working left, right, and center. I'm sure you would know about that if you follow us. I'm not one of those who will be like, yes, you need to join us. No, only join us if you know you're ready to work for the Yoruba people and you mean well for the Yoruba people and you're a Yoruba conservative. So Are, over to you, sir. I would give you I got your back channel message. I'll give you 20 minutes. And also, just to remind you that you stopped at, you wanted to give comparison with the issues in Cyprus and Ukraine. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I will be speaking directly to Yoruba politicians, and hopefully I'll be speaking to your conscience today. Hopefully you are going to open your ears and your minds, because what I'm about to tell you is something that will be able to preserve your legacies. I want to give you an open ear consultation, free advice. Yoruba politicians, you are a politician because you are representing a particular constituency. You are a politician because you are representing Yoruba people in Yoruba land across Yoruba speaking spaces within Nigeria. You get your power as a political stakeholder within Nigeria from bottom up, not top to bottom. You are relevant because Yoruba people are voting for you. Do you want to lose your voting power and your voting base? Because many of you don't even actually understand the war that is being fought. Because even though many of us understand the bigger picture, which is a threat to the survival of the Yoruba people proper, but we understand the first victim of this demonic agenda is the Yoruba politician. And we see that there are some political elites within Yoruba land that will rather destroy Yoruba land if they do not attain political leadership. And a good example is Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Professor Yemi Osinbajo changed his voting unit, polling booth from Lagos and took it to his hometown in Ikenne in order to rebuild from the scratch for his own political agenda. Why did he do that? Because he thought he was going to be the presidential candidate of APC. So the only people that are going to guarantee your political future, my Yoruba people, my Yoruba politicians, are Yoruba people. You should understand that that is the way Nigeria is, and that is the way Nigeria will be till eternity. This political correctness that you guys are currently doing will lead to destroy your destruction. There are within Yoruba land, many people have different grounds with Tinubu. Some people don't like him because he's purely Yoruba, especially people from other ethnicities. That is a bitter truth. Because Awolowo was one of the best of the best. MK Abiola was also hated. Olufalaye was also hated. So the hatred of Tinubu by other ethnicities is normal. It's historical. But what about Yoruba people that are complaining about Tinubu? Many of us complain about Tinubu because we felt he was too liberal. And we saw what has happened. When the shit hit the fan, when it was opening up Aja, opening up Lekki, making it free for all, open bazaar, without considering the demographic changes and the need to protect Yoruba spaces. We see what is currently happening. That is the difference between northern politicians and Yoruba politicians. Northern politicians do not roll that way. The northern politicians put the interests of their people first and foremost. They protect their power base. They don't joke with it. But Yoruba politicians do think they can use neoliberalism to get position of power. Neoliberalism will lead you to destruction. That one is guaranteed. So if you really, really want to protect your dynasties and serve the Yoruba people, you must put Yoruba people first. And this kind of diabolical agenda, destroying the indigenous right over residency right, know that it is targeted against you. People want to replace you. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, people want to replace you and be imposing their own kinsmen, ethnic kinsmen as governors in Lagos. Same thing in Ogun, same thing in Oyo, same thing in Osun. That is the agenda. That is the agenda. Look at the kind of brain power Yoruba people have, scattered across the world, across West Africa, the best of the best. One of the most endowed human brains on earth when it comes to intellectualism. And so and then we built nothing less than 5 empires in the space of 1,000 years in different dispensations. And still, some people think we are still mentally inferior to rule ourselves. As terrible as Nigeria is, Yoruba land is still the best governed, the best states within Nigeria. Other people are still struggling to have their own security units. We created Amotekun. They were, oh, it's going to be attacked. You know, all sorts of propaganda was against Amotekun. The reason why Yoruba land is currently safe, fairly safe, is because we have Amotekun within that has been working. You can hate your political leaders, but look at what they've achieved. So it's Yoruba political leaders. Your allegiance is your consistency, because that is where you get your power. If you do not protect that political constituency, you are going to be destroyed. Your loyalty is to them first and foremost and last. Don't let them blackmail you. Don't let them use emotional nonsense. Don't let them try and use all sorts of nonsense to tell you, oh, you are discriminating against us. It's all lies. You need to protect your space first and foremost. Protect your political base, because once you take up, you destroy the indigenous rights. You destroy our traditional institutions, and you destroy our political institutions. That is further going to destroy our economic institutions. So when you destroy indigenous rights, somebody from Imo, somebody from Ebonyi, somebody from Rivers, somebody from Akwa Ibom does not need to respect the Ooni of Ife. Does not need to respect it, but he's going to see himself as unlimited when it comes to competing with the indigenous people. The Ooni of Ife will become a resident Ooni of Ife. The Alaafin of Oyo will become a resident Alaafin of Oyo. And those are the civilizations that really uphold you, or that brings your society together, that makes it work. Many Yoruba youths that are joining this madness, many of them are, when it comes to history, have zero understanding of who they are. So they are victims of ignorance. They are victims of propaganda. They do not understand what they are wishing for, because they don't understand the history of Nigeria. They don't understand. They've been told that, oh, let us forget what has happened in the past. What has happened in the past will never change, because what has happened in the past is going to repeat itself. That is the reality we face. Because the reason why some people want to destroy certificate, they want to replace state of origin with state of residence, is because what they do not have in their own space, they can get it through uncontrolled migration and through the weaponization of the unitary system of government. So if you don't have seaports, you don't have oil, you don't have gas, you don't have gold, and you think as Zamfara has the biggest gold reserve, what are you going to do? You plan, you organize how you are going to export your people in your millions into Zamfara. Take your time, politically machinate, and take over Zamfara. Politically, the gold reserves. Zamfara is the only state in Nigeria that has its own gold reserves, if you don't know. They are controlling it. You take it over from the Hausa Fulani people. And when people are calling you out for being wicked, you are going to say, are we not all Nigerians? That is the meaning, that is what they are trying to do. It is a crafty way to possess what you do does not belong to you, because the British created Nigeria. Why then are we having Niger Delta militants taking up arms saying it's our oil? And Nigerian states had to even understand it is their oil. Gave them amnesty, created NDDC for them, created even Niger Delta ministry, created a ministerial portfolio for them, gave them 13% derivation because they are indigenous to those spaces. And they are saying because we are indigenous, we deserve so and so. Why are you not trying to destroy that? Are you not calling for war? When Professor Wale Soyinka called them fascists, he knew what he was talking about. These people want to lead us to war. They want to lead us to a bloody confrontation. They are anarchists. They do not respect ethnic lines. They do not respect ethnic spaces. They are anarchists. They should not be allowed to bring their political ideology within any space within Nigeria. Within Yoruba land, to be specific. Now, that is the most important thing. As a Yoruba man, that's why I have to start from Yoruba politicians. You are the first target. So if you like, build railways, build roads, build all sorts of things. They will go and bring Darebo, Rose Vivo, a nuisance, to say it's better than you. Who does not even speak Yoruba? It doesn't matter. It's their own ethnic agenda. Don't let them fool you. And they are going to use for propaganda. They are going to look for you for an excuse. Azikwe called Action Group of Chief Obafemi Awolowo a Christian agenda and a Christian party in Yoruba land in order to bring Yoruba Christians, Muslims, to bring them to come and join NCNC. And it worked. That was why people like Adelabu was part of NCNC. Because they were using propaganda to call Action Group, Awolowo's party, a Christian party. That was why Awolowo went to go and build Arch House for Yoruba Muslims in Mecca in the First Republic. You have to understand your history. Unfortunately, I will not be able to go into the history of Darfur because we don't have time. Because what happened in Darfur is exactly what is happening in our space. The meaning of Darfur means the land of the black people. Fur means black. And now was he taking it over? Darfur was taken over because some people, Arab, nomadic herdsmen, came to settle. They settled there. They settled there close to 200 years ago, 200-300 years ago. They started intermarrying with the local people. Don't forget, the black people are still by far the majority in Darfur, but they don't have the political power. The political power has been taken away from them. The term Janjaweed came from Darfur. The current head of the RSF in Sudan, General Emeti Dagolo, came from Darfur. And Darfur has one of the biggest gold reserves in Africa as we speak. And Dagolo, a militia with no basic education, nothing whatsoever, was just a bandit. He's one of the richest men on the country, on the surface of the earth currently, because he controls the gold reserves of Darfur. Gold reserves of Darfur. It was too late. Now the indigenous people of Darfur had to take up arms, fighting themselves. Over 300,000 of them were wiped out in around 2003 under Omar al-Bashir. That's why the issue of crime against humanity is being brought against Omar al-Bashir. And they say if he's found outside Sudan, he's going to be arrested. And who are the people that were used? They said class. You have to understand that there's nothing called humanity. Oh, we are all human. It's all lies. Humans will ethno-aggregate and pursue their political and economic future in as much as fits them. And I've seen the reality in Nigeria. People that are shouting Biafra or death tomorrow will become patriotic, radical, emergency Nigerians next tomorrow. You have to understand. So when you know that this is fluid, the people you are welcoming today will gang up against you and plan your destruction tomorrow. They will come on social media and say they will chase out your others. Is it possible to say you are going to chase out your emirs in the north? Because they've seen us, when you are weak, people that, there's a place in the in the Christian Bible, when the children of Israel were trying to take up land, and they were sending spies around, they said, oh, those people are very calm, easygoing, they are very easy for conquest. That is the way they see Yoruba people. Easygoing, open-minded, they don't care, everything goes, no, they don't have any problem, this O and B. You are a target for conquest. That's why they can be bringing up obnoxious laws. And they say, oh, don't let us discriminate. It's all lies. Why don't you guys plan for a Nigeria that will look like Switzerland? Why? Why are these merchants of chaos not thinking about a Nigeria that looks like Belgium? Because that is the way nature has created it. Why are you trying to fight against nature? Why are you trying to destroy the fundamentals of our society? That's why I said the Northerners are far more instinctive and wiser than we think. When they wanted their own Sharia law, they saw the future. They knew some sons of perdition will be looking for a way to take over their space through uncontrolled migration. Those people that are fighting, killing Fulani herdsmen, chasing Fulani cows out of their bushes, are looking for how to take over indigenous spaces through certificate of residence. What's the difference? What's the difference between Ruga and the certificate of residence? The ultimate goal of Ruga is that the reason why many people across all party lines, even Wike fought against Ruga, even Wike fought against Wike, an opposition in PDP fought against water resource bill. Why? Because those particular laws is going to change the political reality of those places. It's going to cause the demographic changes. That is the danger of democracy. A land might belong to you, but once settlers outnumber you and they start participating in your politics, you are good as dead. You have to understand. It is common sense. It is not emotions. Don't let them fool you. They say, oh, we are not killing anybody. But you want to hijack the political power. That is the reality. That is why if you live 20 years, if you as an Arab from Egypt, you live 100 years in the United Arab Emirates, you will never and never be a citizen of Qatar. You will never be a citizen of Dubai or United Arab Emirates. That is why you go to Qatar. There are close to 300 people. There are close to 3 million people or 2 million people living in Qatar. But the population of the indigenous people in those places is just around 800,000. So I wish we had the time, but unfortunately we want to stick to time. We want to stick to time to ensure that our message are concise. So I'm going to end with this. So I've been able to use only the example of Darfur. That's the meaning. So you have to understand, the indigenous people must understand that around the world, genocide, destruction of indigenous people, purposefully outnumbering the indigenous people has always been a way in which lands have been taken over by different people across the world. You must never be ignorant about that. So I wish I could talk about Ukraine. The battle of Ukraine, the battle of Donbass, is Ukraine trying to reverse what happened in 1930s. After the issue of the Holodomor by Stalin during the then USSR. It's too late. It's too late. So you have to understand, people that don't have political power over you, they have not outnumbered you, they've already been telling you they are going to chase out your harbors. And a few weeks later, some riffraffs are telling you, oh, let us destroy state of origin, so that you can properly chase us out and take it over. If you want to be part of TYF, kindly follow that link, because this is a movement to protect your space and your land. If you believe that you don't want your political power be destroyed, you yourself should join this movement. Or else you are going to be a victim of this diabolical agenda, this secular colonialist agenda that they are being pushed by these neoliberal fascists in our midst. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arekurumi. Thank you. Even though I still have to fine you for being late for some few minutes. Obiran Koshe, over to you, ma. 5 minutes, please.
Okay, hopefully I wouldn't need to do that because most of the things that I wanted to mention was already mentioned by Arekurumi. Thank you all for coming to the space here. Thank you, Robert. First, I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I would just like to add that when we look at the issue of indigenous rights versus residency rights in Nigeria, the two speakers before me, they've highlighted the different definitions of residency rights and indigenous rights respectively. I think it's very important to understand like the origin of this particular word. You hear me?
I lost you for some seconds, but
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. So I think that we need to know that this is a concept that came forward as a result of colonialism. Okay, so why would anybody be pursuing a why do we even need to determine whose right is indigenous, which one is resident? Because you were all supposed to be indigenous to your land either way. But it's a concept that was developed by the Europeans when they go everywhere, right, conquering people's places. They have to find a way to legitimize themselves, and that is how all this concept of residency rights starts to come in. And the message that I want to pass is that today in the world, where the only right you have left is when you are trying to fight for your indigenous rights. Typically, these are places where people has been completely subjugated. For example, United States. A lot of Nigerians like to say, "Oh, we want to just be like United States." Go and look at the people that are asking to be like United States, and go and look at the things that they wanted. United States is a country that is pretty much a colonial country, whereby they destroy the natives that were there, and then they put their own dreams, their own vision in the land. Okay. Today, the indigenous people to the United States of America, they are in reservations. They are in Indian reservations. People don't like to emphasize that. If you want a United States in Nigeria, that is what you're asking for, whereby all your ethnic groups will become dissolved and you have small pockets of minorities left. And those minorities will now be saying, "Oh, okay, just at least give us recognition that we were here before." So that is what it means when they want a residency right to supersede an indigenous right. We are probably part of the few nations left in the world whereby we still have our ethnic majority, very vibrant. I think it's part of the colonization failure in Africa, which we should make sure that we don't lose this particular heritage that we still have. Because when we are more focused on, we just want roads and, electricity. Yes, these are great things. Everybody wants that. But we shouldn't say that those are the things that matters. Your ethnicity doesn't matter. Your family history doesn't matter. Your ancestral history doesn't matter. Who cares about all of that? We just want jobs. These are the rhetorics of the obedience movement. Everybody knows that. Underlying that, and we saw it, a lot of us saw it, and what are these people talking about? Underlying that is we want to get rid of you guys and replace you. That's essentially what they're saying indirectly. So we should never take our eyes off it. Places like Australia, they are going to and even Brazil, It takes the new president now to ensure that the indigenous people there, they are now getting some things back. These are very sad events, and we shouldn't open our eyes and allow this to happen to us in Nigeria. And it's not just only to the Yoruba people, even though this is a Yoruba platform. When residency rights supersede indigenous rights, the people of the Middle Belt, they are fighting for their life right now with the Fulani invasion. Guess what? By the time residency rights supersede indigenous rights, they have no way to fight anymore, because the people that has been given green cards in Nigeria, you don't know, a lot of foreign Fulani, they give them green cards. After 5 years, they become permanent residents of Nigeria. Then these people, we have equal rights as the Middle Belton people, the natives that are there. So it is a dangerous ideology that must never be allowed to plant itself. And I'm sorry to disappoint you. All the major political parties in Nigeria, they have this in their manifesto. They want to get rid of indigenous rights and replace it with residency rights. It is in all the manifestos. It's in the manifesto of the APC. It's in the manifesto of the LP. It's in the manifesto of the PDP. This is what they plan for you. The problem is this. Even if this happens on our watch, and we cannot raise our voice to fight against this, if it happens, the core knot is protected, because by virtue of Nigeria Constitution, the Sharia law protects them to be able to keep their originality. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. The people that are not protected are the Southerners. We're the one that is not protected. So it's not about, I hate Yoruba people, it's all these Yoruba people. Guess what? It's also going to affect you. But what we realize is that some people don't mind, because they believe that they can always keep their own space. And by virtue, those of us that are not typically planters, we don't go plant ourselves in other people's region, we're going to be the one at loss if this happens. So we must make sure that it doesn't happen. We must start to educate ourselves about it. We don't want to be like the Australian Aborigines. Okay, anywhere whereby you're now struggling to claim your indigenous rights, you've become extinct in those places. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Obiria Koshe. Rewaju, are you there? Rewaju, please, kindly help us take 5 minutes so we can end the room. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And I think it's a nice conversation here. I think it is just a case of a manifesto of colonialism and miseducation that makes people think that they can detach themselves away from reality. And this problem of thinking in line of this residency right is as a result of the economic quagmire, economic reality we find ourselves, because we are in a society where we are economically disadvantaged. Then we can jettison real issues because of short self-aggrandizement. So, and here we find ourselves, you get to see that what most of all these miseducated nitwits talk about is just mere self-aggrandizement, short-term selfish interest, and of which, if our ancestors are taught this way, we might probably be slaves, or we might probably be some sort of people that are majority slaves. So when you see people always talking about let us build a society like US and Canada and Australia, the mindset they have is an economic driven mindset, is an individualistic economic driven mindset, because America has an economic power, and Canada also have an economic power, which trickles down to developing the average individual in those society. Then they feel that reality can be our reality. I mean, a lot of people a lot of people in most countries where you have residency. So where you have countries where residency is mostly viable are countries dominated by the natives. So if you get to see places like Germany, Poland, Spain, Italy, Ireland, not I'm saying Republic of Ireland to be precise, and other countries like that. These areas they have settlers who are immigrants, so they using that idea is just to distinguish that this person is living here. And the truth is that you get to understand the reality of what residency means when, if you are an immigrant by virtue of your history, if an average person who gives birth to, if an average Nigerian today who gives birth to kids in Germany today and the kids become German, in 20, 30 years time, if the kid commit a grievous crime that they deem it fit for them to revoke the citizenship, they will revoke the citizenship, and then probably in some cases they will send the person back to the uh, native country of the person. An average German that is probably a German who does not have anywhere to be. That is the reality of those concepts. So all these terminologies are just mere colonial words. And what most of our miseducated ones amongst us, the one that think they went to school, who are Yorubas, what they fail to understand that in pre-colonial times, if you are a Yoruba person, probably from Oyo, if you go to another Yoruba city or town, you can be integrated into that system. Even though if you are not Yoruba, by the way, you have to integrate because you are a Yoruba person. So when you start hearing some nonsensical statement like, oh, you are from Kwara State, go back to your state. And you see a lot of our people following up all these mini colonialists who call themselves our fellow countrymen, particularly from eastern part of Nigeria. They are never minding their business. They're always interested in the history and how Yoruba people found themselves in Brazil. It's just a low self-esteem case, and where a wannabe let me level up because nature and reality has positioned Yoruba people, in fact, across every part of the world ahead of other ethnic groups in Nigeria. This is not a debate. It is not me that caused it. It is nature. We have to deal with it. So, you see a lot of people. I personally am from Kwara State. You tend to see people when we're talking about Lagos. I'm a Yoruba person. I can talk about Lagos. I have the right. I have every right. You see somebody from places like Ebonyi and Anambra telling me to go back to my state because, Gowon and his minion military junta guys created states. And, forgetting the fact that there's an history before what Nigeria is. Nigeria is barely 109 years, if people forget. So, maybe is it 119 years or 109 years? So, we that understood the history before Nigeria or before the Berlin Conference came, we know what our reality is. So, I think it's high time for people to understand that this residency right is a plot to just make them um, um, slaves in future, particularly the unborn generation. Because you see, what people fail to understand is that what you do today would have an effect in your in your unborn generation. If our ancestors were more oblivious like us, probably before when the Fulani jihadists came, if we lived in their time, would have become slaves because the kind of generation we have, their mental capacity of thinking, and even in an age and day of information, is extremely low, and they tout and they clone their hypocrisy and naivety and their ignorance under disguise of having an opinion and under disguise of saying, "Oh, I have the right." Right have limitation. If you are dull, if you are ignorant, people will play you. Emotional blackmail. You see people talking about, oh, Shore is a student union activist, let him go and start from the scratch. Then when you tell them, oh, GRV does not have any political background, let him also go and start from the scratch, they will start calling you tribalist. So it is noted even by Awolowo that one of the more reasons why people like NCNC and the Ziki's party were calling people tribalists and bigots is because a lot of people do not usually want to associate with that word because it makes them look like a bad person. See, when your interest or your survival or your existence is under threat, it is important for you to understand that mere colonial words like tribalism or bigotry is not what you practice. You are in your house, somebody came to meet you. You say, don't enter my house, stay outside. You are in that right. You know, we cannot, because we are all one Nigerians, then you now start telling people to stop being Yoruba. You tell them, oh, stop thinking like a tribalist. So all those kind of words, they don't even move me because I think it is people that are miseducated that think those words can make them look like a bad person. You can imagine Alaafin of Oyo or Oni of Ife is now a resident of Ile-Ife, and somebody, one Chukwuemeka from Imo, is also a resident. Like, it does not make sense. See, we are tribal in nature. We need to accept that reality. And one of the biggest reasons why there was war in Africa, the people that created the biggest war in Africa, they were Pan-Africanists, people that wanted to cancel ethnicity and identity. You see the likes of this guy from Congo, Thomas Lumumba. What was the reason why there was war in Congo? What was the reason why there was war in Nigeria? You know, they were telling people
Seconds
like
more,
Zeke.
please.
They were telling people like Zeke, let us respect our ethnic boundaries, our cultural boundaries. You know, they were saying, no, we are all one Nigerians. We should live, and we are not one people. We can never think the same way. I cannot see things the same way like you. The only thing that makes us one Nigerians is because we have the same colonial masters. Somebody came from Britain and say, oh, all of you, oh yeah, come and trauma bond together, be living in misery together. And that is, as Nigerians, we are only living in miseries. So it is very annoying that people, because of economic disparity of our current reality, we want to destroy natural fabrics. And I'm going to warn anybody that thinks they can destroy ethnic identity in Nigeria. The moment residency right is implemented in Nigeria with an unguarded border, I'm only going to give Nigeria 20 years. All of us will fight war. I mean, what led to the war, to the Biafran war? It was because of the unitary system, and particularly even people from the Midwest, because they felt they were cheated by what NCNC played, bringing somebody from eastern part of Nigeria to also be the prime and the the regional premier of the Midwest. It was what pinned the Oba of Benin and the Oba of Benin's son and the Oba of Benin himself. And that's why today, when they say, oh, Aburi Accord, the person that made it, the person that boycotted the Aburi Accord was Oba of Benin, it was because of that reason. And they did that because they believed they were cheated. After fighting for the struggle for the Middle Belt, somebody just came from somewhere because they know we are having the same reality. Let us tackle Western region. And they divided Western region into two. And you came, you boycotted them and went to position your own person there. People will fight. So please, if you are a Yoruba person, you don't hate anybody. It is just that you don't want chaos. Because it will be unfortunate when somebody from eastern part of Nigeria takes position of power. And again, I would submit by saying it is not that people from other ethnicity cannot take political power in another place. But for you to do that, you have to be culturally assimilated. You have to be. You have to think like the people you want to govern. You have to accept the people you want to govern as you are now living their own reality. You are not going to come from eastern part of Nigeria to come and take political position in western Nigeria. Then you want to put the interest of eastern Nigerians ahead of west. It doesn't work that way. You have to speak our language. In fact, it is really ridiculous that in civil service in southwest or any other places in western Nigeria, people that don't even speak our language, they are in our civil service. And all because we are Nigerians, we are using colonial language to interact with ourselves. You can never work in any civil service position in Germany without not speaking German. It's madness. We are Nigerian, yes, but we have boundaries. It was the colonial masters that brought us together. We have to accept that reality. So the idea that you think that the most ridiculous thing that pained me more in this election, do you know the only thing that pained me more in this election was people from eastern part of Nigeria saying language does not really matter for anybody to speak to have good governance. It is mental craziness. You want to govern the people, you can't speak their language. Are you running an elitist government and you want to speak a colonial language? Like the people in the hinterland of Lagos or the market women that can't speak English, how is going to interact with them? He's going to get a translator. That is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever thought that would happen. And we are going to document everything. Our kids are going to read it so that by 1500 years' time, they will know that this thing didn't start today. All the issue of the Lagos Press War in the 1940s, it's the same thing happening on Twitter today. And it is because people don't know their history. That's why they feel once they can speak good English, they can say, oh, I don't want anybody to call me a tribalist. They are saying the right thing. They are the most dull people on earth. People that don't even know anything is better than them. So we must respect. See, respecting boundaries is only what's going to make Nigeria last. And my own prayer is that we should not respect boundaries so that all of us will enjoy ourselves, will go our separate way, sharp. That's my own prayer. And if it's what you people want, so be it. I'll
Uh,
be happy because
all right. Thank you very much. Your fine is waiting for you for taking us over time. Anyways, this is what I will just do, and I hope Ari and Bunka will be able to kindly keep it to 1 minute. Alagba Bunka, are you still there, sir? Alagba Bunka, are you there? All right. Ari, are you there, sir? All right. I think both of them have gone off the phones. Anyways, so thank you very much, guys, for coming into the room. We only wanted the room to be 2 hours today.
I'm here. I'm here.
All right, sir. So I wanted to ask you a very fast and short 1 minute question. What would be your advice to the Yoruba people listening to us? Make it 1 minute till the next time we are going to have another Twitter space.
Oh,
1
okay.
minute advice.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. The first thing I want to say is that we are going to be coming here once a month to have this kind of interactive sessions because we've seen that the social media is a vacuum that we cannot leave for miscreants, hooligans, neoliberal fascists, hegemons, expansionists, secular colonialists, mini-colonialists, Levi-Strauss and pursuers. We cannot leave this space. This is where our young youths are being led to Golgotha. So every month we are going to come here. The best minds when it comes to Yoruba conservatism are going to be here. And we want to make it an all-encompassing discussion. If you're a Yoruba politician, you are in SDP, you are in APC, you are in PDP, you are all across the political spectrum, all across the intellectual spectrum, all across the religious spectrum in Yoruba land, from Islam to Christians, Isheshe, atheists, you are welcome to the space. Because what we are discussing affects you. What we are discussing affects you. It's even an insult. In 2023, when the age of Yoruba Renaissance, where millions of Yoruba sons and daughters are preserving our language, we have settlers living in our midst. Who want to impose someone of questionable origin as one of our political administrators, who doesn't speak Yoruba language, who see Yoruba language as bigothed, You know, who sees our Oro festival as diabolical and devilish, and they could tell our youth, and our youth can sit down with them and continue to sit. You know, it says the level of decadence within the Yoruba space, and it is only conservatives that build societies. It is only conservatives that build empires. It is only conservatives that uphold and preserve civilizations. So we need to get back to the drawing board. If not, every single one of us will be replaced. You know, we are not even talking about Tinubu, someone who will be replaced. Akpabio will be replaced. Seyi Makinde will be replaced. Akeredolu will be replaced. That is the bitter truth. Abdulrasaq will be replaced. And they're going to chase out our Abbas. That's it. You have to understand. And this is also written in what in Awolowo's book, that one of the concepts, one of the legacies, one of the plans of Zik was to abolish monarchy in Yoruba land. So it's an historical situation, it's an historical dilemma that we face as a people. So it is not, it's an affront to who we are. Total affront. So forget the corrupt, you know. I've studied several histories, hundreds of histories across the world of different civilizations. When settlers want to take over from the indigenous people, they are always accusing the indigenous rulers of corruption. Mention it. Mention it. When the people of Israel wanted to go and take over the land from the indigenous people, the Canaanites, what was the accusation? They were corrupt. They were idol worshippers. That's what you have to demonize the indigenous rulers. Tell them they are terrible people. In order to find your way and change the status quo, insert yourself, clone yourself into it and take it away from the indigenous people. That's the way the world is. And we must not fall into the trap of our people. And for us and to all Yorubas, keep your morality to your pocket, to all these Yoruba people, they say, where we are doing things. Don't be stupid. Now I want to speak calmly today, but I have to say that nobody sends Yoruba people to be the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Roman Pope of Nigeria. Nobody sends you. You have to realize that the protection of your people is extremely important. That's why I'm speaking to the conscience of Yoruba politicians listening, because I know they are here. You have to understand that the preservation of your people is the source and basis of your political power. If there are no Yoruba people, there are no Yoruba governors. If there are no Yoruba people, there are no Yoruba senators. If there are no Yoruba people, there are no Yoruba chairmen and chairladies. If there are no Yoruba people, there are no Yoruba ministers. That is the bitter truth. People will not, because of humanity, drop their own people and to support you. That's the bitter truth. Don't let them lie to you. Your place is blessed. That's why they want to take it over at all cost. You have to realize that for you to be a political leader, you must have a space, a constituency, and that place is Yoruba land. Why can't you protect it? That is your pot of soup. Why can't you protect? The Yoruba people are not asking too much. Use your political offices to protect Yoruba people. That's what we are asking. We're not asking for too much. You see, when you throw them under the bus, you now come every 4 years. Who is going to vote for you? The people you've chased out and have been replaced by others. If what happened in Lagos and what happened in this election has not taught you a lesson, you will never learn again. We have to learn and be sincere about our survival. And anybody that comes around to rubbish your Yoruba identity is your enemy. So these conservative ideas, think Yoruba forces across the world. We are across the states, Yoruba-speaking states of Nigeria. We are across the West Africa, Yoruba-speaking countries of West Africa. So if you want to join us, please come on board. If you are in the diaspora, click that link, come on board. We need a lot of young minds intellectuals, technocrats. It doesn't matter your age, you can come about. This is what we need to sustain, and this is what we need to do. Thank you very much. May Olodumare continue to bless each and every one of us that have listened to us. May Olodumare continue to bless Yoruba people throughout the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Arabri Inshallah, I can actually see you. I promise you that on our next space, I would personally give you a chance to be able to talk to us. We're rounding up the room now, but just before I do close the room, I'm going to play 1 minute 30-second song, and then I would just say one or two things, and then I would end the room.
Vamos saravá, mamãe Oxum, saravá Xangô, saravá Ogum. Vamos saravá, mamãe Oxum, saravá Xangô, saravá Ogum. As suas matas são iluminadas, as suas ondas são de ondinas, e ao romper da madrugada, firma seu ponto com a cabocla Janaína. E ao romper da madrugada, firma seu ponto com a cabocla Janaína. Vamos saravá, mamãe Oxum, saravá Xangô, saravá Ogum. Vamos saravá, mamãe Oxum, saravá Xangô, saravá Ogum. As suas matas são iluminadas, as suas ondas são de ondinas, e ao romper da madrugada, firma seu ponto com a cabocla Janaína. E ao romper da madrugada, firma seu ponto com a cabocla Janaína.
If the Yorubas in Brazil, Cuba, and other places around the world, majority of them have never, had a step in Yoruba land in Nigeria. They've never been to Ile-Ife. But then, just because, their, fourth ancestor actually told them or passed the message or passed the bloodline to them, that they are Yoruba, and they are protecting it, with all their lives. You see them wearing Ankara, you see them giving their kids Yoruba names, and these people have never stepped in Yoruba land before. My question is, what is wrong with Yoruba people within the Nigerian space from thinking Yoruba first? Okusawawa, Odabo.